You already know what it feels like to want more from your relationships. That quiet ache when you're sitting in a room full of people and still feeling completely alone. That moment when a conversation ends and you realize nothing real was actually said. You're not broken. You're not too much. You're not too little. You've just never been taught what actually makes a relationship last. And here's what nobody tells you. Most people are walking through life repeating the same relationship patterns over and over again, wondering why nothing ever sticks, wondering why the connections they build seem to crumble the moment any real pressure shows up. If that resonates with you even slightly, stay with me, because what you're about to hear is going to change the way you think about every single relationship in your life. Let's talk about the cost of getting this wrong first, because you need to understand what staying where you are is actually costing you. Think about the last time a relationship fell apart. Whether it was a friendship, a romantic relationship, a family bond, it doesn't matter. Think about how heavy that felt. The sleepless nights. The replaying of conversations in your head wondering what you should have said differently. The feeling that maybe you're the problem. That maybe you just aren't built for deep connection. That is not a small cost. That is your life. That is your time. That is your emotional energy being slowly drained every single time a connection you care about breaks down. Research consistently shows that loneliness and poor relationship quality are directly linked to reduced life expectancy, higher rates of depression, and lower levels of overall happiness. We're not talking about minor inconveniences. We're talking about the quality of your entire existence being shaped by whether or not you know how to build real relationships. And the worst part? Most people spend years in therapy, years reading book after book, years trying and failing, before they stumble onto the actual truth. But you don't have to take that path. For those who want a faster route, we have related programs linked down in the video description below. People who have gone through these programs have transformed their relationships in ways they genuinely didn't think were possible. Don't scroll past it. The most important investment you'll ever make is the one you make in your ability to connect with other human beings. Now let's get into what actually matters. The number one reason relationships fail is not lack of love. It's not even lack of effort. It is the absence of emotional safety. And most people have no idea what that means or how to create it. Emotional safety is the feeling that another person can see the real you, the flawed, imperfect, uncertain version of you, and still choose to stay. When that safety is missing, people put on masks. They say what they think the other person wants to hear. They hide their real feelings. They perform a version of themselves that they believe is more lovable. And slowly, without either person fully realizing it, the relationship becomes a transaction between two masks instead of a real connection between two real people. You've felt this. Maybe you've been in a relationship where you felt like you were always performing, always managing how you came across, always a little bit afraid that if the other person really saw you, they would leave. That exhaustion you felt? That's not love, that's survival. Real love, real connection feels completely different. It feels like breathing. Like you can finally put something heavy down. Like you don't have to be anything other than exactly what you are in this moment. So how do you create that? How do you build that kind of emotional safety with another person? It starts with something called consistent presence, not physical presence, emotional presence. There is a radical difference between being in the room with someone and actually being there with them. Most people are physically present in their relationships but emotionally somewhere else entirely. They're thinking about the next thing they have to do. They're half listening. They're waiting for their turn to talk instead of actually absorbing what the other person is expressing. When someone feels truly heard, something shifts in them. Not just intellectually. Something shifts at a cellular level. They relax, they open, they trust, and that trust is the foundation of everything. Without it, nothing else you do in a relationship will work. No grand gesture, no expensive gift, no perfectly timed apology will substitute for the simple act of making someone feel genuinely seen. Now here's where it gets really interesting, and where most relationship advice completely misses the mark. People think vulnerability is weakness. People think that admitting fear, admitting uncertainty, admitting that you need someone is somehow unattractive or a sign that you don't have it together. So they keep their walls up. They stay surface level. They talk about everything except the things that actually matter. And then they wonder why they feel alone even when they're surrounded by people who supposedly care about them. Vulnerability is not weakness. Vulnerability is the bridge between two human beings. It is the only thing that makes genuine intimacy possible. When you let someone see something real about you, something you don't show everyone, you give them the gift of being trusted. And most people, when they receive that gift, respond by offering something real in return. That's how walls come down. That's how strangers become people you'd do anything for. But here's the truth that makes most people uncomfortable. You cannot build emotional safety and deep vulnerability with someone if you haven't built it with yourself first. If you are constantly running from your own feelings, constantly numbing the parts of yourself that feel too big or too painful, you will attract and create relationships that mirror that avoidance. You will unconsciously keep people at a distance while consciously wondering why no one gets close. The people who have the deepest, most lasting relationships are not the people who have it all figured out. They are the people who have learned to sit with themselves honestly, who have developed the capacity to feel difficult emotions without being destroyed by them, who know what they actually need and can communicate that without shame. That's not something most people are taught. That's something most people have to discover the hard way. Sometimes after years of painful relationships, sometimes after a breakdown that forces them to finally look inward. But again, you don't have to take the long road. Let's talk about what the other side looks like. Because you need to feel this. Imagine waking up in a relationship where you don't have to wonder if the other person is really there for you. Where conflict doesn't feel like the beginning of the end, but like an opportunity for both of you to understand each other more deeply. Where the silences are comfortable instead of loaded with unsaid things. Where you laugh, genuinely laugh, not because you're performing happiness, but because being with this person actually makes life feel lighter. Imagine your friendships feeling like lifelines instead of obligations. Imagine your family relationships having a texture of genuine warmth instead of polite tension. Imagine walking into a room and knowing how to connect with the people in it, not from a place of strategy or performance, but from a place of real grounded confidence in who you are. That is not a fantasy. That is what relationships look like when you understand and consistently apply the principles we've been talking about. Countless people have built exactly this reality for themselves after years of thinking it wasn't possible for them. After years of believing they were somehow fundamentally unlovable or that real connection was reserved for other people. It is not reserved for other people. It is available to you. Right now, exactly as you are. But you have to be willing to do something most people won't do. You have to be willing to go deeper than the surface. You have to be willing to look at the patterns you've been running on autopilot and ask yourself honestly whether those patterns are actually serving you or just keeping you safe in a way that also keeps you isolated. If you're ready to stop settling for relationships that leave you feeling empty, if you're ready to finally understand yourself deeply enough to connect with others deeply, the programs we've linked in the description below carry the most powerful work in this space. People who are convinced they were beyond help have used this work to completely rebuild their relationships from the ground up. Most people will scroll past it. Most people will keep doing what they've always done and getting what they've always gotten. But you are watching this for a reason. Act on that reason. The link is right below this video.